Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I just want to bring a different perspective in, of course, supporting what has been supported here this morning. I want to really take this opportunity to congratulate the mover of the bill, Honorable Senator Dr. Joya Clark, who has been a champion for these types of initiatives, and really also to recognize a team who I see in the gallery supporting her even from that perspective, for they would have been part and parcel of ensuring that we get to this end. As it demonstrates, Madam Speaker, no one is an island. It takes a leader, yes, but a leader must have a team. I also want to, of course, recognize those on the opposite side who have really lent their support. But I want to say something further, that this originated, as was indicated by the member from number 10, correct? Member from number 10, Honorable Evelyn, and he indicated that under his stewardship at some point, before it was taken away from him, as indicated by a member from number 9, that he started this process. And I think that this shows a level of maturity, in the sense that there are some things, and I keep making the point, that have a national impact and requires all of us, or these things require all of us. And if it started with him and it was a good thing, why shouldn't it be finished? And as he stands now on the opposition, or sits on the opposition bench, he can support the completion of what he was started. And I think this is the type of work that the Parliament must do from time to time. There are national issues that require all of us to make a positive input in order to ensure that the country can advance. And so here we are today with this most important bill, the Plastic Waste Reduction Bill. Madam Speaker, this is not a tree-hugging exercise, or those who might be purists when it comes to environmental issues. There are those who oppose the word environmental action, or even the word sustainability, even the word, I would say, climate change, that concept towards, because some might think that it's based on nothing outside of the fact that you might have some people who are bored, and so they are looking for meaning to their lives, and they say, let's just go out and talk about this thing. Madam Speaker, I want to say that this is not with this particular case. Also, this is not being passed to make people's lives more difficult, make our citizens' lives more difficult. That is not the objective of this bill. This bill is not also being passed because of a fad, that Tom do it, Jerry do it, we are the last, so let's jump in line. We are not jumping in line blindly, Madam Speaker. We have looked at this, analyzed this, and the question that is always asked when any bill is brought before this honorable House is, how does this bill benefit the people of St. Kitts and Nevis? And that is where I think the crux of the matter is. It should not be done in jest, or for style, or for grandstanding, but it should be done with the people's interests at the center. And this bill follows these principles, Madam Speaker. With respect to plastics, and this is why I think it is important, plastics are dangerous when we consider the medical perspective. Very, very dangerous. It was alluded to by a number of persons here this morning, but they said they would leave some of it up to me, maybe because of my profession as a medical doctor. There are a number of things that are killing our people here in St. Kitts and Nevis and throughout the Caribbean. These are the non-communicable chronic diseases. We are talking about blood pressure. We are talking about blood sugar. We are talking about heart disease, strokes, and now cancer. Cancer has become the #1 killer in St. Kitts and Nevis. And most cancers, Madam Speaker, they can be prevented. Most cancers can be prevented. However, we are seeing an acceleration in terms of the incidence, meaning the number of persons with cancers. We are seeing an increase in the mortality, meaning the number of persons who die as a result of cancer. And what are these things that are contributing to cancers here in St. Kitts and Nevis, Madam Speaker? Lifestyle. Lifestyle. One, the way we eat. We have abandoned what we call the holistic way of eating because we felt that that way of life was akin to being poor and impoverished. And so we have left the ground provision and we have left the breadfruit and we have substituted them with white rice and processed flour. The very food that the elites in the north are avoiding are the very food that we are embracing as food to represent some sort of advancement in our society structure. So, Madam Speaker, I want us to get away from that idea. We have what it takes to live healthy in St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's much cheaper to live healthy than to actually live a life eating these types of food. Why? When you eat this type of food, Madam Speaker, and then come into plastics, you get sick. And all the money that you save, in about 2-3 months when you get a serious disease, all of it is gone. You get a cancer, all of it is gone. You get heart disease, all of it is gone. You get a stroke, you see how quickly that money disappears. And it is because of this lifestyle that we live here in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so I want to encourage us to really be a little bit more mindful and to know it is not only healthier, happier to eat healthy, but it's also cheaper as well. And so if it's an economic question that is being asked, then I ask people to recheck their books, their accounting books or their finances, and see how living a healthy lifestyle can really be not only a good option for health, for physical health and mental health, but also a good option for financial health. And so I want to really encourage our people. Madam Speaker, in dealing with all of these factors that contribute to all of these chronic diseases and health issues is plastic. Plastic is one of them. Plastic, as was mentioned, was first invented in the early part of the 20th century, and it comes from fossil fuel fundamentally and natural gas. That's where it comes from. In other words, simple terms, oil and gas. Plastics don't degrade easily. Plastics can stay around for hundreds of years. But if plastics were to stay around and ain't causing a problem, ain't nobody problem. That is fine. But plastics cause a lot of medical issues that are now being discovered, maybe 150 years after it was first invented, Madam Speaker. Plastic causes, when it breaks down, it goes into what you call microplastics or nanoplastics. You can't see it with your naked eye, but it's very much a part of the environment now. It's a part of the sea. It's a part of the soil. It's a part of the ground. It has become part of our water. So each time we eat or ingest anything, we are taking in plastics in billions of microscopic particles that we can't see, that we call microplastics and nanoplastics. As a matter of fact, Madam Speaker, we might be flesh, bone, blood, and plastic. So we have to add that other element because of the amount of plastics that we are ingesting. And these plastics that reside in our bodies cause tremendous issues. One, plastic cause inflammation. Inflammation is responsible for almost any disease. The hallmark of almost any disease is inflammation, be it heart disease, brain disease in terms of stroke, cancers, and other inflammatory diseases such as lupus and rheumatoid arthritis, and those type of chronic diseases. A lot of them, the basis of all of them is inflammation. And do you know what plastic causes? Precisely. Plastic causes inflammation. And because plastic causes inflammation, one is now predisposed to have a plethora of diseases, many of which I have just mentioned, and one of them being cancers, Madam Speaker. I am sure that when the studies are completed, the high rate of cancers and chronic diseases that we have in St. Kitts and Nevis, many of them will be attributed to our ingestion of plastics. And that is why I want to applaud the Parliament for getting rid of plastics. And we are drinking out of glass mugs and glasses, you know, the cups, not to say cup, we call it a glass, but it's made of glass, right? And this is actually a good trend. And these are, you can use them again. And so really, it is cheaper to buy something like this and store your water than to be buying bottled water all the time, Madam Speaker. So it is cheaper on the book, but it's also healthy. Let me go through a number of the diseases that plastic causes, because I want people to recognize how critically it is to understand why we have to ban plastics. The other thing that plastic causes is gut microbiome disruption. Fancy word. You have more bacteria in your gut than cells in your body, possibly. We probably have more bacteria than actual cells that make us up. In other words, our gut is just lined with bacteria. This is what we call the microbiome. But this is healthy gut microflora. Very critically important, because these are what regulate a lot of your body's function, including the hormonal function. Diabetes is linked to the gut. They used to think in the old days that diabetes was linked to a lot of other things, but this is a gut, it is fundamentally linked to. So you see all the fancy medication to lose weight and for diabetes, what do you call them? The fancy one. Ozempic. And you see, Ozempic, you inject it, it cuts your appetite, make you lose weight, and regulate your blood sugar. You know where Ozempic acts? In the gut. In the gut. It helps to correct the gut. And when it corrects the gut, it deals with the issues of obesity because it cuts your appetite. A lot of the time when people eat is because the signal from the gut is disrupted. It doesn't get to the brain to say that you are full. And even when you're full, physically, mentally you're not full. And if you're not full mentally, you'll continue eating. And that Ozempic helps to regulate that, Madam Speaker. Plastics can disrupt that. And that is why plastic is indirectly linked to obesity, indirectly linked to diabetes, and all of these metabolic diseases, Madam Speaker. So I want people to understand that when we are saying we have to get rid of plastics, it is not because we are following a trend, it's because we care about the health of our people. Each time I see all these plastics that are at the landfill and on the side of the roads, I just think about the health of our people. How much more people are going to come down with cancer? How much more people are going to end up with diabetes? How much more people are going to have increased weight and just don't understand why the weight is increasing? How much more people are going to have hormonal problems and just don't understand why the hormones are all over the place? I'm not saying that plastic is the only cause, but plastic has been shown to be a cause and a fundamental cause. Therefore, it is important, Madam Speaker, that we get rid of plastics. The other issue, respiratory problems, breathing problems. Because again, it's inflammation in the lung. People having what you call chronic obstructive lung disease. That could be one. But apart from that, the asthma that we see our people are suffering from is nothing more than an inflammation that takes place in the lung. And plastic can be linked to that as well. And therefore, the high incidence of asthma that we are seeing here in St. Kitts and Nevis can be attributed to some extent, and I think the science would bear it out, that can be associated with microplastics, Madam Speaker. What about the effects on the brain? Affecting the brain. You have a blood-brain barrier that prevents certain chemicals from crossing into the brain, a blood-brain barrier that gets rid of certain proteins so you don't develop Alzheimer's, and I think the member on the other side mentioned Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is as a result of certain type of protein called the tau protein building up in the brain, and the brain not able to get rid of it because there's damage at the blood-brain barrier. Plastic has been shown to damage that as well. And that is why it can lead to the disease that were mentioned by the member opposite. And Alzheimer's and forgetfulness, brain fog, and other type of mental manifestations when the brain is damaged. Anxiety, depression, and all these type of things, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, the list goes on and on, from cancer to respiratory problems, to cell damage, to obesity, to diabetic problems, and so forth. And it does not stop. So plastics are causing a serious health epidemic right here in our country, and it has become so deadly that it is time that we get rid of plastics. And so that is why I am supporting this very strongly. We will not see the positive health benefits right away. It will take years for us to see it. Why? Because the plastics that we have now those are going to be with us for hundreds of years. But if we at least cut down on plastic bottles, plastic cups, plastic containers, even if they are not banned. Because I see we are banning single use. And single use is a good strategy to say, look, let us start somewhere. If we cut out the single use, we can cut down on the use of plastic significantly. But I would also like to say that even though it is not mentioned in the bill, if you so care, if you can avoid using plastics at any point, avoid it. Avoid it, because the microplastic gets into you and it causes damage, inflammation, and all of the health bad impact that it would have over time. The other thing with plastic is that it's in the ocean. So you go, you fish, and you think your fish is healthy. I'm eating healthy, I'm eating fish. But you're eating fish and plastic, madam. Fish and plastic, that's what you're eating. In other words, you're eating fish and oil and gas. That is what you're eating. And that is why we have to get rid of the plastic, because our livelihood in the Caribbean comes from the sea. We are not doing this because the United Nations said. We are not doing this because environmentalists say it. They say a lot of things. That might be one of the reasons, but the most important reason is that we have to act to protect ourselves. We have to act to protect our generation and the generation to come. How can you have a sustainable island state when you have a chemical like plastic that is causing or wreaking havoc on our people's health? And not only our health, the environmental health, the ocean's health, plant health. It's affecting all of the environment negatively. I can't think of one positive impact that plastic is having. But of course, you can't go to a total plastic ban. But I think eventually, as we develop other technologies to use safer, I would say, chemical substances or products, we will get rid of plastic. For example, my Rasta brethren is here, and I sure he don't eat out of plastic. Because the calabash is made of plastic. It's a natural, come from the plant, right? And so when you eat from it, you ain't digesting the chemicals, right? And I want to highlight that we actually have alternatives to plastic that we can use. Maybe the rest of brethren could fancy up a thing and get it sell. And say, man, stop using them plastic, use something natural. I might buy one or two. That could be a market for the rest of brethren. Right? He said hemp. Hemp could be an option from which you can actually make these products. And he's right. Hemp can actually make these type of products. I hope that they go into business now, that we are trying to get rid of plastic and show that you can have a natural, healthy alternative that can really help to deal with the scourge of the health impact of plastics. And so, Madam Speaker, I think people are getting the point that we are passing this bill to protect our health, our environmental health, plant health, animal health, ocean health, and our personal health as well. And in the long run, our financial health. And so if we act now, hopefully, we would not have crossed the line where it's irreversible, and I don't think we are at that point as yet. I think that there is still hope, but we have to act now. I will give you a story. I remember when I was on the other side, not in here, but in the opposition party, the St. Kitts Nevis Labour Party. And the then government was having a march against plastics. I went to the march. The march was being led fundamentally by members within that government. But I put the politics aside and said, well, I want to get rid of plastics too. So because I am of the other party that was in opposition, if plastics swinging left and right in St. Kitts and Nevis, it ain't going to affect me. So the microplastic is saying, no, you're from the party, so I ain't going to trouble you. I'm going to trouble you over here. I went to the march. People say, well, Dr. Drew, I see you in the march. Well, I say, I'm marching against plastics. I'm marching with nobody. I'm marching against plastics. That was mad. And so there comes a point when you can stand together as a people so that you can help to actually advance certain national issues. And so the member from number 10, I think, made the point, 10, correct? Yes. That he advanced it. So I'm supporting his argument that he advanced it, and I actually participated then in the activities, the march that they had. He might remember the march, but the march was right here, and it ended right here where the National Museum is. And I can remember clearly that that march was a march where a number of persons came out. That is to say that I think that there is national support for this. National support. But I wanted our people to understand why is it we are taking such a measure. We are taking a measure to protect you and to protect your health, to protect your country, and to protect the environment. Madam Speaker, when you go to the public health perspective of it, speaking about the environment and how that impacts health, when you have all this garbage just across the street where people just want to throw, just seeing it is unhealthy. It is mentally unhealthy to have an unhealthy environment. Just seeing it alone is enough. The smell alone contributes. And then these plastics can accumulate water, which become breeding ground for mosquitoes, which help in the spread of dengue and other what we call zoonotic diseases, Madam Speaker, or vector-borne diseases in this particular case. In plastics, in garbage, you have rats, you have cockroaches. These carry diseases. They're not just unhealthy because they are part of the animal kingdom. They're unhealthy to a great extent because of the diseases that they carry. The greatest disease that would have ever hit the human family is the plague that devastated Europe, killing more than 50% of the population. And it is because of the rats that were carrying the flea that carried the deadly plague. And do you know who never used to die? Just so you all get a very interesting story. Women who used to have cats never used to die. Just a side note. Women who used to have cats never used to die. And it's the truth. Do you know, it's obvious why. Because the cat will kill the rat. It's a fact of history. And because the cat used to kill the rat, they did not get the plague. And that is where the concept of the witch came in. And that is why the witch is attached to the cat. Because at the end of the day, they used to ask, how is it everybody dying? But these women with cats are living. So it means then that these women were witches, and the cats had to be a part of the whole process of being a witch. And so that is why when we see women and cats, they used to be linked to witches. And then, you know, the broom was involved. I guess they used to clean their houses a little bit more. So you had the broom, the woman, and the cat that used to take care of the rat and help to prevent the plague. But I just said that as a side note, Madam Speaker, to say that just to say that the rats were a serious issue. And in St. Kitts and Nevis, they do carry diseases. And plastics, of course, when they're in the environment, harbor rats, cockroaches, rodents, and so forth, as mentioned. And as a result of that, we can see the diseases being spread. So I just want to wrap up, Madam Speaker, and I hope that the point is made that plastics have no positive impact on our health. It is time we seek to get rid of plastics. We should look at alternatives, and I hope that our people go into business. Since there are no more plastic bags, make bags from the materials that those bags can be reusable. Those reusable bags. Just like how when we used to make masks, after a while, people open up businesses that made masks. Let's open up businesses that will make reusable bags, brand them, sell them to our people, sell them to the tourists. And at the end of the day, you can have business, you can make money, and you can have improved health as a result of eliminating plastic. So I want to finally say to the mover of the bill, I want to really thank you and your team for the excellent work that has been done. We will not see the impact immediately, but I can assure you, the less plastic we use will be the less diseases we see as a result of plastics. And therefore, this bill should be applauded. I hope it gets the support of all members, both on government side and the opposition side, so that we can send a strong message to our people that all of us are here to work in your favor and to protect your health. With that, Madam Speaker, may it please you.